wiped all of it off the board.
It could send a signal to other states with similar bans that a reckoning is looming.
Both of those bans are unconstitutional and will be striking them down.
For 36 long years, state officials insisted that one specific class of firearm was far too dangerous for regular citizens to touch. This created some of the strictest legal regulations anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, but in a sudden 10-5 decision that sent shockwaves across the entire American legal landscape, a federal appeals court did something that has never been done before in history. They declared an entire state-level ban on semi-automatic rifles completely unconstitutional, instantly erasing decades of gun control restrictions with a single sweep of the judicial pen. This landmark decision did not just surprise politicians and legal scholars across the country, it shattered a decades-long legal precedent and set up an explosive high-stakes showdown that will reach the highest court in the land. The epicenter of this dramatic legal earthquake is the state of New Jersey, a region long recognized for maintaining some of the most uncompromising and rigid firearm laws in the United States. Back in 1990, state lawmakers in Trenton passed aggressive legislation designed to remove what they classified as assault firearms from civilian hands. The law targeted long-standing popular designs, placing strict prohibitions on semi-automatic rifles equipped with detachable magazines if they contain specific ergonomic or physical features. For over 3 decades, state regulators defended these rules as essential public safety measures. They successfully fended off legal challenges while maintaining a near-total prohibition on standard military pattern rifles. Everything came crashing down when the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, sitting en banc in Philadelphia, issued its monumental ruling in the case known as Cheeseman v. Platkin. A full panel of 15 federal judges gathered to re-examine the core constitutionality of the state's 36-year-old law. The legal challenge, brought forward by ordinary gun owners alongside the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs, argued that state lawmakers had trampled upon fundamental constitutional guarantees. When the final opinion was published, a 10-judge majority delivered a decisive blow.
The U.S. Appeals Court has ruled New Jersey's ban on assault rifles is unconstitutional.
New Jersey's ban, they say, were always unconstitutional.
New Jersey's assault weapons ban is dead.
They ruled that prohibiting standard semi-automatic rifles and restricting ammunition magazine capacity directly violates the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. What made the decision particularly shocking to seasoned judicial observers was the identity of the judge who authored the majority opinion. The opinion was written by Judge Ariana Freeman, a judicial appointee of President Joe Biden and a former federal public defender. Typically, appointees with public defense backgrounds are expected by legal analysts to side with state safety regulations in high-profile gun cases. However, her opinion demonstrated that judicial fidelity to constitutional precedent transcends political expectations. She wrote clearly that even when state regulations are enacted with the noble intention of reducing community violence, they cannot stand if they conflict with the explicit constitutional rights guaranteed to law-abiding citizens. To construct their groundbreaking ruling, the appellate panel relied heavily on 2 bedrock legal decisions established by the Supreme Court of the United States. The first key foundation was the landmark 2008 decision in District of Columbia v. Heller, which established that the government cannot ban firearms that are in common use for lawful purposes like self-defense. The second crucial pillar was the 2022 ruling in NYSRPA v. Bruin, which completely overhauled how courts evaluate gun control laws. Under the new rule, states can no longer justify firearm bans by balancing public safety interests against individual rights. Instead, regulations must be historically consistent with how firearms were regulated during the founding era of the nation. When applying this strict historical test to modern firearms, the Third Circuit panel examined extensive demographic and commercial data regarding firearm ownership in America today. Official court records highlighted that there are now approximately 24 million AR-15 style rifles in active civilian circulation across the United States. These semi-automatic rifles are routinely used by millions of law-abiding citizens for target shooting, hunting, formal competitions, and home protection. Because the sheer volume of ownership proves beyond any doubt that these rifles are in common lawful use, the court determined that state authorities simply do not have the legal power to ban them from responsible households. To appreciate the massive real-world impact of this decision, One must look at how the state's original 1990 ban operated on a granular level.
It is a challenge to both New Jersey's assault weapon ban and magazine ban. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals has found that both of those bans are unconstitutional and will be striking them down.
Under the old statute, specific models like the Colt AR-15 were banned by name, while other semi-automatic rifles were banned if they possessed 2 or more banned characteristics. These restricted features included collapsible or telescoping stocks, pistol grips, flash suppressors, threaded barrels designed to accommodate sound suppressors, and bayonet lugs. To remain compliant, firearm manufacturers were forced to engineer modified, featureless long guns like the Smith & Wesson M and P15 post-ban configurations. They removed standard ergonomic grips and stocks just so citizens could lawfully own a basic rifle. The appellate court also targeted the state's controversial limits on magazine capacity, completely dismantling restrictions that had been tightened over time. When the original law took effect in 1990, the state capped detachable rifle magazines at 15 rounds. However, in 2018, state lawmakers passed further restrictions, dropping the legal magazine limit down to just 10 rounds. This forced hundreds of thousands of local gun owners to either destroy, alter, or surrender their standard capacity magazines. The Third Circuit majority ruled that because detachable magazines are functionally necessary to operate modern semi-automatic firearms, restricting magazine capacity is legally identical to restricting the firearm itself. The explosive judicial decision sparked immediate backlash and vocal outrage from state political leaders in Trenton. State Governor Mikey Sherrill, a former United States Navy pilot and federal prosecutor who served nearly 10 years in uniform, released a fiery public statement strongly condemning the ruling. She called the 10-5 decision dangerous, legally wrong, and completely disconnected from the concerns of local parents and suburban communities. Drawing on her military background as a qualified expert shot, she argued that weapons designed for warfare do not belong in local neighborhoods. She pointed out that state gun violence rates had steadily declined over the past 3 years under existing gun safety legislation. Standing alongside the governor, State Attorney General Jennifer Davenport expressed deep frustration with the federal court's intervention. She officially declared that the appellate decision was as unfortunate as it was legally incorrect. She warned that removing long-standing safety guardrails poses unnecessary risks to law enforcement officers on the front lines. She assured residents that state prosecutors would remain fully committed to working with police departments to aggressively enforce all remaining firearm statutes while continuing to address gun violence as a critical public health crisis. Meanwhile, state attorneys immediately began preparing emergency petitions to delay the implementation of the ruling pending further judicial review. In stark contrast, gun rights advocacy groups across the nation reacted with enthusiasm, hailing the ruling as a historic turning point in Second Amendment litigation. John Comerford, a prominent spokesperson representing the National Rifle Association, issued a celebratory statement. He emphasized that the decision finally secures the constitutional liberties of millions of responsible gun owners in the Garden State. He declared that this breakthrough ruling would serve as a powerful blueprint and a crucial benchmark in ongoing legal efforts to dismantle similar assault weapon bans and magazine restrictions across the entire country. Elaborating on the broader legal implications, Joseph Green Lee, Director of Litigation Counsel at the NRA Institute for Legislative Action, provided an in-depth breakdown of why this specific decision carries so much weight. He explained that while other federal appeals courts have engaged in complex legal maneuvering to uphold state gun bans, the Third Circuit simply followed the direct instructions of the High Court. In his analysis, the court applied a straightforward legal formula. If a class of firearm is owned by millions of citizens for lawful reasons, state governments cannot outlaw it, regardless of political pressures or public policy debates. The far-reaching consequences of this judicial decision quickly spilled over into unexpected legal territory, affecting laws far beyond long guns and ammunition magazines. Advocacy organizations like Knife Rights immediately filed notices of supplemental authority in federal courts, leveraging the Third Circuit's ruling to challenge state bans on automatic opening knives and switchblades, because the court firmly established that the Second Amendment protects all bearable arms that are in common lawful use. Legal teams are now utilizing this exact same constitutional argument to strike down state restrictions on cutting tools, pocket knives, and traditional defensive equipment. Within the geographic boundaries of the Third Circuit, the ruling has triggered an immediate legal crisis for neighboring state governments. Laws passed in states like Delaware, which enacted a broad ban on semi-automatic rifles in 2022 following national mass shooting incidents in Uvalde and Buffalo, are now virtually indefensible in federal court. Federal district judges presiding over pending lawsuits in Delaware and the United States Virgin Islands are strictly obligated to obey appellate decisions coming out of Philadelphia. This means those local gun bans are now expected to be invalidated in rapid succession. This ground-shaking decision has created a massive, irreconcilable split across the federal court system, dividing the nation into starkly different legal zones. While the Third Circuit struck down state bans, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals recently upheld Illinois' statewide assault weapon ban alongside a long-standing ordinance in Cook County. At the same time, the First Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston unanimously sustained Massachusetts' strict rifle ban, and the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond affirmed Maryland's gun control laws. This deep division means that an American citizen's constitutional rights currently depend entirely on which state line they happen to cross. Because federal appeals courts are now fundamentally divided on the meaning of the Second Amendment, the final resolution rests entirely with 9 justices in Washington. The High Court recently agreed to hear 2 consolidated cases, Vera Montes v. Cook County and Grant v. Higgins, which directly challenge state and municipal bans on semi-automatic rifles in Illinois and Connecticut. Oral arguments are set to take place in the upcoming fall judicial term. A final binding ruling is expected by mid-2027 that will decide once and for all whether state-level assault weapon bans can legally exist anywhere in the United States. What started as a localized legal battle over specific rifle features and magazine capacities in New Jersey has now transformed into a watershed moment for constitutional law. As the country awaits the ultimate decision from the highest court in the land, this landmark ruling stands as the very first time a federal appeals court took a stand to strike down a state's assault weapon ban. The outcome of this fight will echo through legal history for generations, forever altering how the right to keep and bear arms is understood across America. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.